You want a podcast? Welcome to Flute 360, the podcast that reminds you everything is connected. I'm Dr. Heidi K. Begay, flutist, educator, creative entrepreneur, and follower of Christ. Here, we explore the full circle, the 360 of your life as a musician, because who you are as a person shapes who you are as an artist, and the lessons you learn outside the practice room are just as vital as the hours with your flute in hand. From health and spiritual growth to artistry and career fulfillment, this space is where it all intersects. Come as you are. There's a seat for you at the Flute 360 table. Today's episode is episode 358, and it's titled Before the Big 360, an honest reflection on calling, career, and identity. Hey there, Flute 360er. This is episode 358, and I am in a headspace, heart space of reflection. We are 2 episodes away from the big 360, and I want to say thank you so much for your insights, questions, commitment, and participation in this community these past 7 years. And my headspace and heart space is in reflective mode right now. Since we are 2 episodes away from episode 360, I'm dropping in a little teaser that these next 2 episodes, especially E360, is one that you do not want to miss. Reason being is because Eric and I have a huge announcement as we are closing up 2025, the 7th year of the podcast, and the 360th episode. And as we are a few days away from that big announcement, I just want to be in this headspace and heart space with you to let you know where I am. This is a huge milestone for all of us, not just for me as the creator and host of the podcast, but of the many fantastic guests, sponsors, clients, listeners who've engaged in this community. This is beyond my wildest dreams. When I was 11 years old and I set out and I felt God strongly put on my heart to pursue music, fluting, a flute degree, and being a music educator in the music industry space, I was a young girl. I was 10, 11 years old, and maybe max 13, once I realized that this was the space that God has called me to be in. And throughout those 20, 30 years of pursuing music and a terminal degree, I've learned a lot along the way. And these are things that I want to share with you. I know a lot of these gems I have shared with you in the past, but I just feel like it's my duty and it's my responsibility and it's my calling to really unleash and make sure I wrap up this year with a beautiful big Christmas bow. So I feel like I can hit the period button on the keyboard, hit space, hit save, and file it away, knowing that I said and did everything that I sought out to do. Now, granted, this doesn't even really probably do it justice. This short solo episode probably doesn't even cover everything that truly is resonating inside of me. But it's a start, and it's the best I can do in this moment. And throughout my life as a Christian, and the reason why I bring up my faith is it's not to be pious, it's not to be religious, it's not to be throwing or shoving or being loud in anyone's face at all. If anything, it's the complete opposite. And I share that because a lot of people perhaps don't understand or don't know my heart when it comes to me sharing my faith. I'm not going to focus in on these comments, but just for context, a lot of times podcast listeners have sent me messages not understanding why I'm sharing my faith. And I've been wrongfully accused of being cult-like. That couldn't be further from the truth. My walk with Jesus is so paramount and so special to me that I felt a need as a daughter of God to share the most intimate relationship I have on this earth. Yes, even more intimate than my own husband, Eric. He has always stood by me. He's my savior. He's my best friend. And he's my father. And through this lens, that's how I see his world, his creation, his gospel, and what he's said in scriptures to be true. And it's almost nearly impossible. If there's a way to do it, I would be dumbfounded. But where I am now, it is impossible for me to stand in an educator's role and try to separate meaning and truth and separate those values from the way I shape and mold people. Because God is the ultimate silversmith. He's the ultimate one who bears all of us in his precious hands, and he holds us preciously, wanting to and caring for each individual child of his in his own unique way with you. So for me, as an educator, and specifically a music flute educator, it baffles my mind and it puzzles my mind to even try to separate those two worlds. And so, therefore, my faith justly and rightfully got interwoven into my teachings. The way that I've been molded through Christ is the way I want to shape the people within my own studio and offerings. And I know I will never be perfect. I will never be a perfect representation of that. But that's okay, because I'm just one of the many instruments that God gets to use. So I bring this all up because throughout my walk with him, he's been so faithful to whisper these callings and these prophetic words over my life. When I was in college deciding what path to pursue in my music career, do I go down more the performance lane or the education space? This was before I knew you could build your own lane with the unique skill sets and talents he's given you. This was back when these conversations weren't even being had. So I was thinking, which of these two tracks do I take? And I heard education, loud and clear, living in Tucson, Arizona. And from that calling, that helped me to decide the steps that I would need to take in order to achieve that goal. Going and working with specific flute teachers who, yes, were very crafted in being well-diverse flute performers, but you could see that their main calling is education. So that determined my steps for my master's degree and the career that I started to create for myself post-master's and beyond. So education was put on my heart around the age of 2022, somewhere in there. And I've been following that ever since. And as I reflect on these past 7 years, and as I reflect as we are 2 episodes away from E360, I pray that you have felt God's love. You have learned something new about him, just even in these little pockets that I might have shared along the way. Because at the end of the day, I've done life with my flute, and I have done life without my flute. I have done life with a husband, and I have done life without a husband. And, in my deepest, darkest moments where I was questioning why I even got the terminal degree, where I was going in my career with the degrees and the experiences that I have acquired thus far, and not seeing a light at the end of the tunnel, being so confused and going, this doesn't add up. Through all of that, and I know I'm not the only one who shares a similar experience, so I'm talking to you, the flutist, who probably gets it and resonates with these accounts to a certain degree. But even through all of that, through having a career, not having a career, pivoting out of music for a while, pivoting back into music for a while, the one solid foundation, the one rock that has been there for me and through all of it is Christ. And I feel like and I didn't understand it at first, and I didn't know this at first, but I feel like God was lovingly using this platform to really love on each listener. And Flute 360 podcast was, again, just one instrument of many, one vessel of many in order to connect with the people who he wanted to connect with. And I am beyond grateful for that. I'm beyond grateful for getting to share amazing stories and career paths and information and nuggets and people and conversations with all of you. I'm a better person because of it. I have grown as an individual tremendously in my artistry, in my humanity, in my individualness as a woman, as a teacher, as a spouse, as an auntie. I have grown in tremendous ways, and for that I am extremely blessed and grateful. And there's a lot of things we've unpacked through this podcast. We've uncovered and discovered amazing testimonies and trials, victories, highs and lows of various multifaceted flutists in their careers for the past 360 episodes. I can't even tell you what or which handful of episodes are my favorite. I could never even pick my favorite episodes because they're all like my unique digital little babies. Each episode represents somebody who was willing to share and be vulnerable about what they have learned throughout their career. They showed up in unique ways to put themselves out there, whether it was an easy task or something that challenged them. I saw my guests as people who I've grown to get to know better and just be in admiration for their willingness to share and to come alongside and be in the community and express themselves in a very honest way. And because of that, we as a whole are better because of it. We are better when there's more than one, when two or three come together. We interlock, so to speak, with our hands, and a chain is created. And people are better together. We as humans get very depressed and saddened in isolation. That's why I'm a huge advocate for relationships and building relationships building new relationships, repairing maybe broken relationships if possible. Because when like-minded artists come together and we build something together and come together in community, that's really special. So throughout all the conversations, I've learned about people's uniqueness, individuality, how no two career paths even look remotely the same, expressing themselves in their own individual means and through their own individual means. And it was really a privilege to take everyone's accounts and everyone's stories in their lives and what they were willing to share within their episode, package it up, and do the best of representing it to the best of our producer-like abilities. And yeah, it's a really neat way to gather information, perspectives, stories, testimonies, and package it up in this digital portfolio. And then get to actually hit launch or publish for any flutist, any musician, anyone who is willing to listen, any podcast listener willing to listen. People got to consume that information across the globe. That's amazing to me. Just as much as it is amazing when we get to come together as musicians in an ensemble and somebody plays a certain line and a melodic line and somebody else maybe has a different harmonic line, and those pitches come together and they fuse together to create something bigger than what any individual can do by themselves. Those sounds come together and blend together and marry together to form art and harmonies and frequencies and vibrations that are nurturing and healing. So if there's anything that I want to express as we are coming to an end of this year, end of this portfolio, it's that I wanted to offer you, the listener, a way back home to your heart and the reason why you were first called to music making, if you lost sight of that, a way back home to nurture and uplift and empower others in your community or your teaching space, a way back home to give you space to express your deepest thoughts, your passion, your dreams, your concerns in a place where we could grow together, a way back home to who you are as an artist. If for some reason that identity had been stripped away for a time or broken in some capacity, a way back home to knowing who you are as God's child. Because at the end of the day, whether you have an instrument in your hands or not, whether you have a career that's bubbling over or not, where does your identity lie? What is or who is your rock? And that was my offering that I could give to this space and to this industry and group of people. That's the one thing I could offer. And that's the one thing that meant something very special, to get to share that with people who had never heard of that or needed a reminder or was stepping into a deeper relationship with him. There's a lot of great There's a lot of great that's happening in our community. I love seeing how this space is so innovative, creative, and how we push the envelopes open and push the envelope forward in many different ways. At the same time, I think we have, and this is true of anything, but we still have a lot of room to grow. When I look at my teachings and when I look at musicians navigating their own careers, we are experiencing a unique season within our industry's history. There is, not always, but sometimes, there is pushback within our music culture of expanding our horizons to new possibilities. And that's okay. Change is hard up front. Change can be difficult at first. We as humans are notorious creatures for liking consistent routines. So I know that there is this greater need in the music industry for change. Change from, I'm saying this with a grain of salt, change from just to only having two career path options. People ache. People are like, I don't fit into just being a flute professor or just sitting in a flute orchestral chair within an ensemble, because the math ain't mathing. I've done the hard work. I put in the hours. I put in the investment. I've gone to the festivals, master classes, and achieved and accomplished these music degrees. But these jobs aren't available to me. What gives? This is what I was told to be true. Put in the work, and the results will come. Yes, but there is this evolution happening in our industry, and it's been happening for quite some time. And even before COVID, if you look at past centuries and how musicians have operated, we've always been entrepreneurial to a certain degree. And I think there's a little bit of pushback in our industry of accepting that business hat as a creative artist. There is still a lot of ground that we need to unearth and uncover for this new way of thinking, this trajectory to be fulfilled. There's pushback in, we know that these jobs are scarce and there's more graduates out there and less jobs available. We know that there's an issue here. This is not new news to anybody. But when given these different creative solutions in how to overcome these obstacles, in order to overcome these career obstacles, the pioneers out there, the musicpreneur pioneers out there saying, hey, create your own lane, create your own path, look at what skill sets and what's missing in the market and how you get paid, combine that, marry that together, and create your own thing. And then sometimes the response is, yay, that's great, but that means I failed. Or that's great, how exciting, but if I do that, then maybe I've let down past professors, myself, or my family members by thinking outside the box and doing my own thing. There's pushback to these musicpreneur pioneers who are saying, hey guys, let's think outside the box. Let's create something new for you. And people want to embrace it. I know they do. But because of the music culture and how they've been trained in the music schools for so long, it's like they're almost saying, yes, but that's not the way that we were taught in school. So that must be for the people who have failed. And they don't want to embrace it because it's scary. And I'm not pointing my finger towards anyone. I get it 1000%. I'm the first one to get it. But if the system has failed you, if the industry has changed, if the math ain't mathin', then you're allowed to pivot. You're allowed to create something for yourself that holds meaning, that you feel God has called you to do, something that you're passionate about. When I say passion isn't something that's like woohoo exciting and it's all unicorns and rainbows. Passion means I am willing to sacrifice for this thing. Find something that you're passionate about, something that's missing the market, something that you get paid to do, and you can embrace that path. You can embrace those options. You can embrace those offerings. You have not failed your degree. You have not failed yourself. You have not failed past mentors. You have not failed family members. If anything, on this side of my musicpreneur journey, I feel like I was actually more of a researcher or a valid researcher or a valid, and I'm saying researcher because of that terminal degree. I feel like as a musicpreneur, my terminal degree now has more weight because it's not just theory that I read in books about music performance, music career, music fill in the blank, but it was actually practiced from the roots of my schooling, but then pioneered and expanded into new territories. Just like music, music is a language. We had to learn the language of music in order to speak it. When I went into a new territory of entrepreneurship, I was learning a new foreign language, adapting to this new terrain and learning this new language in order to survive and thrive. Because of that exploration, because of that pioneering through, that's where I feel like it's really neat to see that knowledge, the education, and my unique experiences throttle me forward towards new and uncharted lands that I never thought I was going to get to experience or get to explore. And that kind of goes to, this comparison culture that's in our music culture. Well, if I don't sound like the top 1% flutist, the one or two flutists who get to play in blank philharmonic orchestra or blank symphony, then that means I must have failed. No, absolutely not. Just because your career path does not look the same as a recording artist or an orchestral artist or an academic flute professor's career does not mean that you failed. And being in the music culture so much, the industry has taught us to sound like the top 1%. And if you don't sound like them, well, are you really good enough? And then that feeds into this career pushback. Hey, expand to new territories. Oh, but wait, I don't look like the top 1%. I don't have one of those two only jobs out there. So I must have failed. Yeah, I think that scarcity mindset needs to be challenged. You can get paid for your art. You do not have to live in and identify with this starving artist identity. You can make a meaningful life, a fulfilling creative and financial life for yourself. Don't be bothered by what other people may or may not think. You can't control that. And so I went on a little bit of a tangent there, but one of the main caveats of this platform was to empower the modern day flutist to really, truly, in a very genuine and honest way, amplify your voice, both on and off your musical stage. And I brought on specific guests who I felt like embodied that, who accepted that for themselves. And I shared my own accounts of what I was doing on my own path to give you confidence, to breathe new life into you, to give you that motivation and inspiration and accountability for your own musical path. And I've said this 100 million times, and I will say it again. I will always be your number one cheerleader. I love being in dialogue with you. I love sharing ideas with you. I love growing together. I love connecting the dots with you. And if there's anything I can ever do to help uplift you, to empower you, to give you new tools in your toolbox for you to be ready for your own artistic and career terrain, I will be your Lewis and Clark with you. So thank you so much for sitting with me and reflecting with me and just listening to my heart with me in these short 20, 30 minutes. But that's the embodiment of Flute 360. And that's the heart behind this brand and platform. Much love to you. Have a great holiday season. And until next time. If this episode resonated with you, don't let this be a one-time listen. Flute 360 is more than a podcast. It's a growing library of conversations created to support musicians through every season of their artistic and professional journey. To stay connected and continue receiving reflections, resources, and behind-the-scenes updates, I invite you to subscribe to my newsletter. You can join us anytime at HeidiKBegay.com. That's where I share what I'm learning, what's unfolding next, and how we continue this conversation beyond the microphone. And if you know a flutist, educator, or artist who could use encouragement or clarity right now, please share this episode with them. Thank you for being here. I'm really grateful you're part of this community. Let's talk about flute.